The moment my grandson gripped my wrist, I knew something terrible was about to happen. His tiny fingers dug into my skin like claws, trembling, desperate, and when he looked up at me, his eyes weren't those of a child. They were the eyes of someone who had seen something. Something he shouldn't have. "Grandma," Devon whispered, voice cracking, "please, don't let us go back to the house." It wasn't the words themselves that froze me. It was the fear in them, a raw, animal kind of fear that no 7-year-old should ever feel. We were standing in the dim yellow light of the parking garage, the air heavy and cold, the sound of distant footsteps echoing through the concrete. A moment ago, everything had been normal. My daughter Candace had kissed us goodbye, told us she'd call once she landed, and disappeared through the terminal doors with her confident stride. Now, everything inside me was unraveling. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" I bent down, forcing a shaky smile. "Don't go back." "Why? Did you have a bad dream?" Devon shook his head violently. His knuckles were white against my wrist. "No, Grandma. I heard Mama. This morning. She was talking on the phone. She said something bad. Something about us." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean, baby? What did she say?" He leaned closer, eyes darting around as though the shadows were listening. "She said, make sure there are no mistakes. The gas has to look like an accident." For a moment, my world stopped spinning. I just stared at him, this small, trembling boy clutching his dinosaur backpack, his lips pale, his voice barely holding together. The air left my lungs all at once, replaced by a cold that started in my bones and spread upward until I could barely move. "That's enough, Devon." My voice came out hoarse, foreign. "You must have misunderstood, sweetheart. Mama loves us." He shook his head again, harder this time. "Please believe me, Grandma. Please." His lower lip quivered. "You didn't believe me before when I said she was hiding things. But this time it's real." And that's when I remembered. The papers he said he'd seen her hiding in her office. The nights she stayed up tinkering with the kitchen pipes. The calls she'd hush when I entered the room. The moments I brushed off because I thought she was just coping. My daughter had been different lately, colder, distracted. But this. No. This was impossible. Yet, the fear in Devon's voice wasn't imagined. It was real. My hand shook as I brushed the hair from his forehead. "Okay, baby," I whispered, forcing the words past the tightness in my throat. "I believe you. We're not going home tonight." The relief that washed over his little face broke my heart. He nodded, clutching his backpack like it was the only thing keeping him safe. I opened the car door with trembling hands and helped him inside. The parking lot was empty now, silent except for the faint hum of the fluorescent lights. I started the engine, and the headlights sliced through the darkness like two sharp blades. "Where are we going, Grandma?" Devon asked, his voice soft, uncertain. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere she can't find us." I pulled out of the garage, my pulse hammering in my ears. The city rolled past us in ghostly streaks of light, the airport, the highways, the endless night pressing in around us. I didn't have a plan. All I knew was that my daughter, my own child, might be planning to kill us. As we drove, my mind replayed every sign I had ignored. Candace's growing distance. Her late nights at the office. Her short temper when I asked simple questions. At first, I chalked it up to grief, the pain of losing her husband, Reggie, 3 years ago in that awful car crash. She'd buried herself in work, thrown her energy into her job as if she could drown her sorrow in spreadsheets and deadlines. I admired her for that. I really did. But grief changes people in strange ways. Sometimes it turns them cold. Sometimes it turns them dangerous. Devon fell asleep in the back seat, his face soft in the dim glow of the dashboard. Watching him, I felt a mix of love and horror. How long had he been carrying this secret? How long had my grandson known that something in our home, someone, wasn't safe? When we passed the city limits, I stopped at a small gas station on the edge of nowhere. The clock on the dashboard read 11:42 p.m. The man behind the counter looked half asleep as I bought a paper cup of coffee that tasted like rust and fear. Back in the car, Devon stirred but didn't wake. I wrapped my old cardigan over him and stared out the windshield, the fluorescent lights painting harsh circles on the wet asphalt. That's when my phone buzzed. Candice. My hand froze mid-air. Her flight should have taken off hours ago. Why was she calling? I hesitated, then pressed answer. Hey, Mama, she said cheerfully, her tone perfectly normal, maybe a little too normal. Are you home yet? A chill ran down my spine. How did she know I wasn't? I forced a light laugh. Oh, not yet. We stopped for dinner. Devon was hungry. A pause. Too long. I see, she said finally. Where are you having dinner? I swallowed. The little restaurant near the shopping center. My voice sounded steady, but inside, I was shaking. Shouldn't you be on your flight by now? There was a problem with the schedule, she said smoothly. The flight's been delayed until morning. I'm heading back home. Her words hung in the air like smoke. That made no sense. Candice never forgot flight schedules. She was obsessive about details. She would never simply head home after a cancellation. Oh, I said faintly. That's too bad. Don't worry, Mama, she said sweetly, almost too sweetly. Enjoy your dinner. I'll see you soon. When the call ended, my hands were slick with sweat. She knew. She knew. Maybe she had cameras at the house. Maybe she'd realized Devon overheard her conversation. And if she was really coming home tonight, then we were already out of time. Devon woke up with a start as I pulled back onto the highway. Was that Mama? He asked sleepily. Yes, I whispered. She said the flight was cancelled. She's coming back home. The fear in his eyes returned instantly, sharp and wild. Grandma, he said in a voice barely above a whisper, she knows. She knows we found out. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Then we can't stop now. We keep driving. The road stretched ahead empty, endless, full of secrets. Every sign we passed blurred into the next, but all I could see was Candice's face. The daughter I'd raised. The baby I'd held in my arms. The woman who might be waiting at home with a plan to end our lives. How does a mother make sense of that? How does she even breathe after realizing the child she gave everything to is capable of this? But there was no time to fall apart. Devon was counting on me. I had to protect him, even if it meant protecting him from his own mother. Hours later, I pulled over at a quiet rest stop on the outskirts of the old neighborhood we used to live in. I killed the engine and sat in the darkness, my heart thudding painfully. Somewhere, deep inside the noise of my thoughts, a memory surfaced. Wallace Harrison, the old doorman from our former apartment building. A kind man, loyal and discreet. If anyone could help us, it was him. Devon, I whispered, turning to him. Do you remember Mr. Harrison? He nodded sleepily. The man with the crossword books. That's right, I said. We're going to see him. He blinked, confused but trusting, and leaned his head against the window as I started the car again. The streets were empty now. The city behind us was nothing but distant lights. But as we drove into the quiet dark, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. That maybe, somehow, Candice already knew where we were headed. I checked the rearview mirror. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw headlights following far behind. But when I blinked, they were gone. Still, the dread didn't leave. Because deep down, I already knew one thing. Whatever was waiting for us wasn't over. It was just beginning. By the time we reached the old neighborhood, the sky was a dark velvet streaked with faint silver clouds. The streets looked smaller than I remembered, like the world itself had shrunk overnight. Every porch light, every parked car, every flicker of movement in the shadows felt like it was watching us. I parked a block away from the building. The familiar brick walls loomed ahead, and for a brief moment, nostalgia stabbed through my fear. I had lived here for 20 years before we moved in with Candice. Back when Reggie was alive. Back when things made sense. Stay here, sweetheart, I whispered to Devon, brushing his hair back. Grandma's just going to see if Mr. Harrison's on duty. He looked at me with those wide, frightened eyes. Don't leave me, Grandma. I'll be right back, I promised, even though I wasn't sure promises meant anything anymore. The security booth's light glowed faintly through the glass. I knocked softly. For a second, nothing, then a shadow moved inside, and the door creaked open. Wallace Harrison blinked in disbelief. Mara. His voice carried the gravel of age and cigarettes. What in God's name are you doing here at this hour? I need your help, Wallace, I whispered, my voice trembling. Please, don't ask too many questions yet. He frowned but didn't hesitate. Come in. When I brought Devon from the car, Wallace's eyes softened immediately. He guided us through the narrow hallway into the small staff apartment behind the building. It was warm, cluttered with books and old photographs, smelling faintly of coffee and dust. He poured us both hot chocolate and sat across the table, his brows furrowed as I told him everything. By the time I finished, the clock on the wall ticked past 1 a.m. The silence that followed was suffocating. Mara, he finally said slowly, that's a hell of an accusation. You're saying Candace wants to kill you? Her own mother? I know how it sounds, I whispered, my throat tight. But I can't ignore what Devon heard. I can't take that chance. Wallace rubbed his temples. I've known Candace since she was a kid. She always seemed level-headed. She was, I said. Until she wasn't. He studied me for a long moment, then sighed. What's your plan? I need proof. The words came out like a command to him, to myself, to the universe. If we go to the police now, with nothing but my word and a child's story, they'll think I've lost my mind. She's smart, Wallace. She knows how to look perfect. He nodded grimly. And what do you intend to do? I need to go back to the house, I said, voice low. Not to stay, just to search. To find something, anything. Devon's chair scraped the floor as he stood up. No. His voice cracked. You can't go there. Mama might come back. I turned to him, my heart breaking. I'll be careful, sweetheart. I promise. I just need to take a quick look in her office. Tears shimmered in his eyes. What if she finds you? What if she hurts you like she hurt Grandpa? The air froze around us. I felt the color drain from my face. What did you just say? He blinked. Sometimes she talks about Grandpa. She says he was stupid for not listening to her. And that the crash wasn't her fault. Wallace and I exchanged a look. A silent understanding. Something darker was hiding beneath all this. I reached across the table and took Devon's hand. Listen to me, baby. I'll come back. I need you to stay here, with Mr. Harrison. He's going to protect you. Wallace cleared his throat. You're not going alone, he said firmly. If what you're saying is true, it's too dangerous. I'll drive you. I'll wait outside. You have 20 minutes, and if you don't come out, I'm calling the police. Wallace. No arguments, he said, grabbing his coat. Let's go before I change my mind. Devon clung to me, shaking. Promise you'll come back. I promise, I said, kissing his forehead. Lock the door and don't open it for anyone but us. He nodded, and I forced myself to walk away before the sight of his tears broke my resolve. The streets were empty as we drove toward my house. The city had fallen asleep, but my mind was wide awake, every nerve electric, every breath a shallow tremor. The houses we passed looked ordinary, but I saw monsters behind every window. Wallace parked a block away, just as we'd agreed. You remember the signal? He asked, his face grim under the dashboard light. 1 ring means I'm fine, I said. 2 means trouble. He nodded. And if you don't call at all? Then call the police, I whispered. I stepped out into the night. The silence was thick enough to choke on. The cold air bit into my skin, and the streetlights stretched my shadow long across the pavement. The house loomed at the end of the street, dark, silent, waiting. My home for decades. Now it felt like an open mouth, ready to swallow me whole. I walked along the side path and slipped the key into the back door. It turned with a soft click. Inside, the air was colder than outside. Too still. Too quiet. I could hear the distant hum of the refrigerator and the faint tick of the living room clock. Each sound felt magnified. I moved through the darkness with my small flashlight, its thin beam trembling as much as my hands. The stairs creaked under my weight. Every step echoed like a warning. Halfway up, I froze. A strange smell filled the air. Sweet. Chemical. Wrong. I sniffed again, heart pounding. It wasn't gas. Not quite. It smelled more like solvent. Or poison. My throat tightened. Whatever she'd planned, it wasn't just theory anymore. I reached the door to Candace's office and pulled out the hairpin from my coat pocket. Old habits die hard. I'd learned to pick simple locks when Candace was a rebellious teen who thought locking her room meant locking me out. Now I wished I hadn't. Click. The door gave way. Her office was immaculate. Too immaculate. The scent of lavender cleaner clung to the air. Everything was symmetrical, books lined up by color, pens arranged by size, her laptop perfectly centered on the desk. And yet, something about the perfection felt wrong. Like she was hiding the chaos somewhere out of sight. I searched methodically, careful to disturb nothing more than necessary. Drawers. Folders. Filing cabinets. In the third drawer, beneath a stack of bland corporate reports, I found it, a red folder. Different paper stock, different weight. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Inside were bank statements I didn't recognize, accounts in unfamiliar names, all with large wire transfers to someone called M. Sellers. And behind those, a photocopy of my life insurance policy with handwritten notes in Candace's sharp pen. Margins full of numbers. Circled dates. Underlined words, payout clause. Beneficiary transfer. Conditional death. I felt sick. It was real. Every nightmare, every suspicion, every warning Devon had given me, all of it was true. A sound downstairs shattered the silence. The unmistakable creak of the front door opening. I froze. Candace. She was back. My breath hitched as I snatched my phone and dialed Wallace's number. 1 ring, 2. Then I hung up. The signal for trouble. My fingers shook as I grabbed the phone again and snapped photos of the documents. The camera shutter sounded deafening in the silence. I shoved the papers back into the drawer and crept behind the door just as footsteps echoed on the stairs. Slow. Deliberate. Not Candace's usual pace. Heavier. Male. My pulse thundered in my ears. The doorknob turned. Slowly. I could hear breathing on the other side, deep, steady, patient. Then, the door creaked open. Just a few inches. A shadow fell across the floor. I held my breath, pressed flat against the wall behind the door. Marcus, is everything clear up there? Candace's voice drifted faintly from downstairs. Marcus. The name from the bank statements. Just checking, a man's voice answered, rough and low. The house is empty. Candace's voice turned sharper. It shouldn't be. They were supposed to be here. The plan was for tomorrow night after my flight. Now everything's messed up. Their footsteps moved closer, hers lighter, his heavy. My entire body locked in place. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. The only way out was the window. I turned slowly, hands trembling as I unlatched it. The cold air hit my face, sharp as ice. Below me, the backyard looked impossibly far. The ledge was barely a foot wide. One wrong move and I'd break every bone in my body. Candace, I found someone. Marcus's voice thundered suddenly. An old guy sneaking in from the back. Wallace. Oh God. Candace's voice came from my bedroom. Who is he? I didn't wait to hear the answer. I climbed through the window, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. My foot slipped on the ledge, my fingers scraping brick. I bit my lip to keep from crying out. From below came the sounds of shouting. A crash. A groan. Wallace. Tears blurred my vision, but I forced myself forward, inch by inch toward the ivy-covered trellis. My only hope. My only chance. Behind me, inside the house, Candace's voice cut through the air, cold and furious. Find her. And that was when I realized. They weren't just going to clean up a mess. They were hunting me. The night was a black ocean swallowing me whole. The cold air burned my lungs as I clung to the narrow ledge outside the office window, my fingers stiff from fear and age. My knees shook, my heart slammed against my ribs, and every second I expected the window behind me to explode open, her voice to slice through the dark. Find her. Those two words echoed in my skull as I inched toward the ivy-covered trellis. My slippers scraped against the rough brick, my balance tipping dangerously. I was 70 years old, shaking like a leaf, but the thought of Devon's little face, terrified, trusting me, kept me from letting go. Below, shadows moved across the grass. A flashlight beam cut through the dark. Check the yard. Marcus's voice was deep and cruel. He sounded close. Too close. I forced myself forward, gripping the wooden lattice with trembling hands. The old trellis groaned under my weight. I could feel the vines pulling free from the wall, roots tearing with a sound that made my stomach twist. Please, God, not now. I climbed down, my foot slipping once, scraping my shin raw. The pain was sharp, but it anchored me. I was still alive. Still fighting. When I finally touched the ground, I didn't stop to breathe. I just ran barefoot across the damp grass, through the open gate, into the darkness of the alley beyond. Behind me, the back door burst open. She's out here. Marcus roared. The beam of a flashlight swept over the yard. I ducked behind a row of trash bins, holding my breath until my chest ached. Their footsteps thundered closer. I could hear Candace now, her voice calm, almost bored, like this was just another item on her to-do list. She won't get far, she said. She's old. She's scared. Old. Scared. Maybe I was both. But I was also desperate, and desperation can make a person dangerous. When their voices moved toward the front of the house, I slipped out of the alley, keeping low. The night air stung my cheeks as I half ran, half limped toward the corner where Wallace's car was parked. Please be there. Please be there. I turned the corner and froze. The driver's side door hung open. The headlights glowed weakly onto the asphalt. Wallace was slumped over the steering wheel. Wallace, I whispered, rushing forward. My hands shook as I touched his shoulder. He groaned faintly. There was blood on his temple, a dark, sticky line glinting under the light. Thank God, I breathed. You're alive. He tried to speak but coughed instead. Go. Mara, she'll find you. I'm not leaving you, I said fiercely. I slid my arm under his shoulders, trying to lift him upright. We're going together. No, he rasped, gripping my sleeve. They saw me. If they find me here, it's over. You have to go. I won't. Mara, he said, eyes locking onto mine. For Devon. That stopped me cold. I pressed his hand once, hard, and whispered, I'll come back for you. Then I turned and ran. The streets blurred. Streetlights, mailboxes, parked cars all melting into a smear of yellow and grey. Every sound made me flinch, the bark of a dog, the hum of a passing car, the rustle of wind in the trees. My mind was chaos, my body pure instinct. Somehow, I made it 3 blocks away before collapsing behind a row of dumpsters near an abandoned grocery store. My chest heaved, my throat felt like fire. My hands were bleeding, scraped raw from the climb, and my knees throbbed. For a long moment, I just sat there, clutching my phone, trembling. I had the photos. The proof. But I couldn't go to the police yet, not without Devon. And God help me, I didn't even know if Wallace was still alive. Tears welled up in my eyes. What kind of mother raises a child capable of this? What did I do wrong? Where did I lose her? I had given Candace everything, my time, my money, my love. I'd buried my husband, I'd raised her boy, I'd built my world around them. And now I was the one running for my life. The phone vibrated in my hand. Unknown number. I froze. For a heartbeat, I thought maybe it was Wallace. But something inside me whispered otherwise. I answered, too slowly. Mama, Candace's voice purred through the speaker. Smooth. Calm. Terrifying. Why are you making this so difficult? My throat closed. Candace, what have you done? She sighed, as if I were a stubborn child. You don't understand. You were supposed to sleep through it. Peacefully. I didn't want it to be messy. Oh God. My voice cracked. You're my daughter. I was, she said flatly. Before you chose him. Before you chose Devon. Before you made me the afterthought. Afterthought? I whispered. Candace, your father. My father left me nothing, she snapped. Everything went to you and that boy. Do you know what it's like watching my own mother treat me like a guest in my house? Like a burden? That money wasn't mine to give. I cried. It was for you both. No, Mama, she interrupted coldly. It was for you to control. To remind me every day who really had the power. Her words sliced through me. For a moment, all I heard was the hum of static between us, the silence of a bond already broken. I loved you, Candace, I whispered. I still do. She laughed. Soft. Chilling. That's sweet. But love doesn't pay the bills. The line went dead. For a long minute, I just sat there, shaking, my breath ragged. I stared at the dark screen, my reflection trembling in the glass. I wanted to scream, to sob, to disappear. But then I saw Devon's face in my mind again. That terrified little boy who believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. I got to my feet, every muscle protesting, and limped toward the main road. There was a payphone outside a 24-hour diner, its neon sign flickering like a heartbeat in the distance. I could call 911, but what would I say? My daughter tried to kill me, but I don't have her last name on these fake bank accounts. They'd think I was senile. I needed proof they couldn't ignore. I stopped at the curb, headlights flashing past. And then a car slowed. My pulse spiked. A dark SUV, tinted windows. Too clean. Too slow. I stepped back into the shadows, heart hammering. The SUV rolled by, and for a moment, I saw her face, Candace, behind the wheel. She was smiling. I waited until the car disappeared down the street before I moved again, slipping through the side alley of the diner. My mind spun through 1,000 half-formed plans. I couldn't go to the police yet. I couldn't go back to the apartment. There was only one place left, one person who might still help. Reggie's old law partner, Frank Nolan. He'd handled the insurance documents after Reggie's death, and he was one of the few people Candace never liked. Said he was condescending. Maybe because he saw through her charm. If I could reach him, if he could verify the bank statements and the policy copies, we might have a fighting chance. I needed a ride, though. My old legs couldn't take 10 more miles on foot. Then I saw it, an unlocked bicycle chained loosely to a rack beside the diner. It was ridiculous, but it was all I had. I grabbed it, whispered a silent apology to its owner, and pedaled into the night. Every push of the pedals sent pain shooting through my knees, but the fear behind me was stronger than the pain ahead. By dawn, I reached Frank Nolan's office on Peachtree Street, a dull building that looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 80s. The lights were off. Closed. Of course. I pressed my forehead against the glass door, exhaustion weighing me down. For the first time all night, I felt the edge of despair. I was alone. Out of breath. Out of time. Then a faint buzz cut through the air. My phone. I pulled it from my pocket, another unknown number. This time, a video. My hands shook as I pressed play. The screen flickered, grainy, dimly lit. Devon sat on a couch, eyes red, clutching his backpack. And behind him, Candace's voice, calm, soothing, venomous. Say hi to Grandma, baby. Tell her she shouldn't have run. Devon's lip trembled. Grandma, please come back. The video ended. The phone slipped from my hands and clattered onto the concrete. For a few seconds, the world went silent. No cars. No birds. No breath. Just the hollow, endless ringing in my ears. Candace had Devon. My little boy. My reason for surviving the night. My everything. She had him. And she was daring me to come home. I bent down slowly, picked up the phone, and looked into the reflection of my tear-streaked face. My fear was gone now. Only fire remained. If Candace wanted me back at that house, then fine. I'd go back. But this time, I wouldn't be the one running. By sunrise, the city felt like another planet. The morning light made everything look normal, the joggers, the coffee shops, the kids waiting for school buses, but I'd crossed a line that normal people never do. I was on the other side now. The side where your daughter might be your killer. Where the word home meant a trap. I sat on the curb outside Frank Nolan's office, staring at the phone that had just shown me the video. Devon's small face, tear-streaked and scared, haunted me like a ghost. He was alive. But for how long? A part of me wanted to curl up right there and let the world swallow me. But the stronger part, the part that had raised a child, buried a husband, and survived 70 years of storms, wouldn't let me. Fear had done its job. Now it was rage's turn. I picked up the phone again and replayed the video, studying every detail. The couch. The wallpaper behind him. That wasn't our living room. The curtains were wrong, pale blue, not grey. Then I saw it, the corner of a framed photo. The one from Candace's old apartment, the one she'd rented years ago before she moved back in with me. She wasn't at the house. She was at that apartment. It hit me like a jolt of lightning. She'd set the trap at home, but she was hiding somewhere else, maybe waiting for me to panic and walk straight into it. Not today. I found a payphone a few blocks away and dialed the only number I could remember by heart. Frank Nolan's office, a groggy male voice answered. Frank, it's Mara Binham. There was a pause. Mara? It's 7 in the morning. Are you all right? No, Frank. I'm not. I need to see you. It's urgent, life or death. That got his attention. He cleared his throat. All right. Come around the back door in 10 minutes. I'll buzz you in. When I arrived, Frank looked exactly the same as I remembered, grey suit, glasses perched too low on his nose, coffee cup already in hand. But the look he gave me when I told him everything, from the overheard phone call to the bank transfers and Candace's plan, was something between horror and disbelief. Mara, he said slowly, rubbing his forehead. That's an incredible accusation. I have proof. I slid my phone across his desk, showing him the photos I'd taken of the bank statements and insurance files. He leaned closer, scrolling through them. Jesus Christ, he muttered. These are real. That's your policy, your signature. The transfers. M. Sellers, that's a known name. Fraud cases, laundering. Mara, your daughter's in deep. Can we go to the police with this? I asked. He hesitated. We can, but they'll want more. These pictures might not hold up if she claims they were altered or stolen. We need to get the originals, or at least trace the account through her firm's financial branch. I clenched my hands. She has my grandson. Frank's head shot up. What? She sent me a video. Devon's with her. He stood, pacing. All right. First, we find her. You said the background didn't look like your house. I nodded. Her old apartment. Near Riverside Avenue. Frank grabbed his keys. Then that's where we start. We drove in silence, the morning traffic crawling like sludge. Every red light felt like a punishment. Every minute another chance for Candace to hurt my grandson. Frank, I said quietly, do you think she could have done something to Reggie? He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, when the accident happened, the insurance investigators had questions. But they ruled it a malfunction. Reggie's brakes failed on a downhill curve. It wasn't suspicious at the time. But if Candace tampered with it... My voice cracked. He glanced at me, eyes dark. Then she's been planning this a lot longer than anyone realized. My stomach twisted. The idea that my daughter, my little girl who used to sing to her dolls and cry over scraped knees, might have killed her own husband made me physically ill. But deep down, something inside me had already accepted it. Candace's old apartment building was half empty, one of those run-down complexes with peeling paint and broken mailboxes. We parked 2 blocks away. Frank turned off the engine. You sure you're up for this? I don't have a choice. He nodded, handing me his spare phone. If anything goes wrong, call 911 immediately. I'll circle to the back. I adjusted my coat, hiding the trembling in my hands, and walked toward the building. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the hallway smelled like mildew and old carpet cleaner. Every sound echoed, the creak of a floorboard, the buzz of a fluorescent light, the thud of my heart. Apartment 2B. That was hers. I stood outside the door, listening. For a moment, Nothing. Then, faintly, a sound. A child's voice. Grandma. My breath caught. Devon. I whispered. Mama said you'd come, he said from the other side. His voice was trembling. She said you'd have to. I pressed my hand to the door. Are you okay, baby? Is she there? She's sleeping, he whispered. She took something from the bathroom and his voice cut off suddenly. Muffled noise. A scuffle. Then another voice, cold and sharp. Mom. Candace. My blood ran cold. Why don't you come in? She said softly. We're all family, after all. The door creaked open. Candace stood there in jeans and a white sweater, her hair pulled back neatly. She looked normal. Ordinary. Like she hadn't tried to kill anyone. That somehow made it worse. She smiled faintly. You really couldn't stay away, could you? I stepped inside slowly, scanning the room. Devon sat on the couch, eyes wide and red. His little backpack was beside him, as if he'd been packed for a trip he didn't want to take. Let him go, Candace, I said. This has gone far enough. She tilted her head. Has it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're the one breaking into people's homes and stealing their files. Those were my files, I snapped. You were planning to kill us. She chuckled, a sound that didn't belong to the girl I'd raised. Kill you? Oh, Mama. Such a dramatic word. I was just setting things right. You've always kept everything from me. The house. The money. The control. Reggie left those things to protect Devon, I said. You were his wife, Candace. You should have wanted that. I wanted freedom, she shouted suddenly, her calm cracking like glass. Do you know what it's like living in someone else's shadow? First Dad, then Reggie, then you. You made me small, Mama. You made me feel like I owed the world for existing. Her voice broke. For a flicker of a moment, I saw the little girl she used to be crying on the stairs because she'd failed a math test, terrified of disappointing me. Then it was gone. Replaced by someone else. Someone colder. She sighed, rubbing her temples. It didn't have to be this way. You were supposed to just sleep through it. Quiet. Painless. But you had to run. You were going to kill your own son, I said, my voice shaking. Don't you dare pretend you were doing this for me. Her face darkened. He's my son, she hissed. And if I go down, he goes down with me. Devon whimpered, clutching his knees. That sound broke something inside me. I stepped forward, heart pounding. Let him go, Candace. Please. I don't care what happens to me. Just don't hurt him. She looked at me for a long moment, studying me the way a predator studies prey. Then she smiled again. You'll do anything for him, won't you? Yes, I whispered. Anything. Good. She reached into her pocket and pulled out my phone, the one I'd used to take pictures of the documents. Then you'll delete these. Right now. I stared at her. Candace. Delete them, she repeated. And maybe I'll let you both live. My hands trembled as she tossed the phone to me. I caught it, staring down at the screen. Every instinct screamed that she was lying. But Devon's small voice, Grandma, please, kept me from hesitating. I opened the Photos app. One by one, I deleted the evidence. My only leverage, gone. Done, I whispered. Candace smiled faintly. See? Was that so hard? Then, she reached behind her, pulling something from her coat pocket. A gun. My breath caught. Candace, I said slowly, raising my hands. Please don't do this. Oh, Mama, she said, stepping closer, her eyes glassy. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. The front door burst open. Candace, drop it. Frank's voice. She spun, startled. The gun fired. The sound was deafening, one sharp crack that ripped through the air. For a moment, everything slowed. Frank staggered backward, clutching his shoulder. Devon screamed. Candace froze, her hand trembling, eyes wide with shock at what she'd done. I lunged. The gun went off again, but this time it hit the ceiling. I slammed into her, years of arthritis and grief forgotten in a single surge of fury. We crashed against the wall, the gun clattering across the floor. Candace fought like a wild animal, her nails digging into my arms. "You ruined my life," she screamed. "No," I hissed through my teeth. "You did." Frank groaned, blood pooling beneath his sleeve, but his voice was hoarse and determined. "The police, on their way." Candace stopped struggling, breathing hard. For a second, her face softened, confusion flickering through her eyes. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "It was never supposed to be like this." I loosened my grip just slightly, and she shoved me backward, sprinting for the back door. "Candace!" I screamed. But she was gone. Sirens wailed in the distance. Devon ran into my arms, sobbing. I held him tight, my body trembling with adrenaline and heartbreak. Frank leaned against the wall, grimacing but alive. "You did good, Mara," he said weakly. "You did damn good." But I couldn't feel proud. Not yet. Because somewhere out there, my daughter was still running, and something told me she wasn't done. The sirens split the morning air like a blade. Red and blue lights flickered through the thin curtains, painting the apartment in flashes of chaos. Devon clung to me, his face buried in my chest, while Frank sat slumped against the wall, blood seeping through his shirt but refusing medical help until they'd heard my story. The police swarmed the place, uniforms, questions, chaos. One young officer kept asking me the same things over and over. "What's your daughter's full name? When did you last see her? What was her motive?" I answered until my voice cracked. Until the words turned to ashes in my mouth. "She tried to kill us," I whispered. "She's been planning it for months." The officer scribbled something down, frowning slightly. That's a serious accusation. You're saying your daughter attempted murder?" I stared at him, my throat raw. "She shot a man. She tried to poison me. She took my grandson. What more do you need?" He avoided my eyes. "We'll issue a bolo, be on the lookout. But she's gone for now. If she contacts you again, you call us immediately." Gone. That word echoed in my chest like a hollow drum. Candace had always been fast. As a teenager, she could vanish into the woods for hours when she was angry, returning with that smug, defiant smile that said she'd won again. Now she was an adult with money, connections, and no conscience. She could be anywhere. 2 hours later, Frank was taken to the hospital. Devon and I were escorted to a safe house, an anonymous motel near the interstate. The room smelled like bleach and cheap coffee. The curtains were drawn tight, and the TV droned quietly, a murmur of voices I barely heard. Devon lay curled on the bed beside me, finally asleep. His small hand rested in mine, warm and fragile. I watched him breathe and tried not to break. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Candace's face, that mixture of rage and sorrow, like she truly believed this was my fault. That I had forced her hand. But it wasn't guilt that kept me awake. It was something darker. Something I hadn't told the police. Because as much as I wanted to see her behind bars, a small, traitorous part of me still wanted to understand. Why? Why my daughter, my baby, had turned into a monster. The next morning, Detective Monroe arrived. She was sharp, mid-40s, with tired eyes and a voice that didn't waste words. She listened as I recounted everything again, the phone call, the poison, the files, the shooting. When I mentioned Reggie's accident, her pen paused mid-scribble. "You think your daughter killed her husband?" I swallowed hard. "I think she did a lot of things no one believed she was capable of." The detective nodded slowly. "We're checking financial records now. Your friend Frank's statement matches yours. The bank transfers, the fake accounts, it's all real. But she's smart. She's been moving money for months through shell companies. She planned this for that long?" I whispered. Monroe met my eyes. "Looks that way." Her radio crackled. She turned away to answer, then frowned. "They just found something," she said. "An abandoned car matching your daughter's vehicle. Parked under the old bridge near the quarry." My pulse quickened. Was she inside? No. But there's blood on the driver's seat. I felt my stomach twist. Whose blood? "They're testing it now," Monroe said quietly. "It could be hers." I didn't know what to feel, relief or dread. If she was dead, it was over. If she was alive, the nightmare wasn't done. I wasn't sure which terrified me more. That night, after Devon finally fell asleep again, I sat by the window watching the headlights pass. The rain had started soft at first, then heavy, drumming against the glass like a heartbeat. I thought about the day Candice was born. The tiny cry that filled the hospital room, the nurse placing her in my arms. She'd been so small, so perfect. I remembered her first steps, her laugh, her high school graduation. The moments that had built my life, all of them now twisted into something unrecognizable. How do you stop loving your child? Even when they've tried to destroy you? I didn't know the answer. Maybe there wasn't one. My phone buzzed softly beside me. For a moment, I thought it was Monroe. But when I looked, my heart stopped. One new message. No number. Just a video file. I hesitated, every instinct screaming don't, but my thumb moved anyway. The screen flickered, and there she was. Candice. Alive. Smiling. "Hi, Mama," she said softly, her tone almost tender. "I guess you've seen the news. They think I'm dead, don't they?" Her face was pale, her hair disheveled, but her eyes, those cold, glittering eyes, were alive with something between amusement and madness. "You really think you've won," she whispered. "You and your little crusade. The old lady saves the day. So brave." She leaned closer to the camera. "But you still don't get it. I didn't want to kill you. I wanted you to understand. You built this. You made me what I am." Her hand came into frame, holding a necklace. My necklace. The one Reggie had given me on our 30th anniversary. The one that had gone missing 2 years ago. "Funny thing," she said, turning it over. "You always said this was your good luck charm. I guess we'll see how much luck you've got left." The video cut off. I sat there, frozen. My reflection stared back from the black screen, pale, hollow-eyed, shaking. She wasn't gone. She was taunting me. The next morning, Detective Monroe returned with an update. "The blood in the car," she said. "Not enough to suggest death. We think she staged it." There was a prepaid phone left behind, wiped clean, but their SIM card had one outgoing call. To a private airfield outside the city. "A plane?" I asked weakly. "Looks like she had an exit plan. We're tracking the pilot." My knees went weak. She could be anywhere now. Monroe's expression softened. "We'll find her, Mrs. Binham. But I won't lie, she's clever. This might take time." "Time," I repeated. "That's something I don't have." "Why do you say that?" I met her gaze. "Because she's not done. If she wanted to disappear, she would have stayed gone. But she sent me that video for a reason." "What reason?" I looked toward the window where the rain was still falling, gray and endless. "Because she wants me to follow her." Monroe frowned. "Then don't." But it was already too late. In my bones, I knew this wasn't finished. Not until one of us was gone for good. 2 days later, Devon woke me in the middle of the night. His voice was small, trembling. "Grandma, there's someone outside." I sat up instantly. The room was dark, the air still. I crept to the window and pulled the curtain aside just enough to look out. A figure stood by the motel's sign, half hidden by the shadows. I couldn't see her face. But I knew. I'd always know. Candice. She raised her hand slowly, and in it, something glinted under the streetlight. My necklace. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. I didn't call the police. Not then. Not yet. Because in that moment, I understood something terrifying and liberating. She wasn't going to stop until she got what she wanted. And if the world couldn't protect me, then I would protect myself. I packed a small bag. Wallet, keys, phone, a photo of Devon. Then I pulled something out of the drawer, something I hadn't touched in years. Reggie's old revolver. Heavy. Cold. Real. I checked the chamber. Loaded. "Grandma." Devon's sleepy voice from the bed. I turned to him, forcing a smile. "Go back to sleep, sweetheart. Everything's fine." He blinked. "Where are you going?" I tucked the blanket around him gently. "To end this." I stepped outside into the rain, my heart steady for the first time in days. The motel parking lot was empty, the air thick with fog. Somewhere out there, Candace was waiting, watching, maybe smiling. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. It was about finally looking my daughter in the eye and ending the nightmare she'd built. One way or another. The rain followed me like a curse. Cold. Relentless. Unforgiving. Every drop seemed to whisper her name. Candace. Candace. The road glistened under the yellow glow of streetlights as I drove into the edge of the city, toward the place where everything began, and where I knew it would end. Our old house. The one she'd turned into a death trap. I parked 2 blocks away and sat for a moment in the silence, my hand wrapped tight around the steering wheel. My reflection stared back at me in the window, an old woman with wild eyes and rain-slicked hair, looking more ghost than human. I didn't recognize her anymore. Maybe I'd died already, back in that parking garage when Devon first whispered, "Grandma, don't go home." But ghosts can still finish what the living started. I reached into my coat pocket and felt the weight of the revolver. Reggie's gun. My last piece of him. It was heavier than I remembered. Or maybe my heart was just too light, emptied of everything but the need to protect the boy who still believed in me. For Devon, I whispered to myself. For the truth. The back door was still broken from that night. I slipped inside. The house smelled like dust and chemicals, faint, sharp, wrong. The scent of lies that refused to fade. The power was off, but I didn't need light. I knew every corner, every creak in the floorboards. I'd walked this house barefoot for years, singing lullabies to Candace in this very hallway. Now, every step echoed like a countdown. She was here. I could feel it. A presence, cold, familiar, alive. When I reached the kitchen, a faint sound made me freeze. The soft hum of a voice. Singing. A lullaby. Her lullaby. The same one I used to sing to her. I turned the corner slowly. Candace stood by the counter, her hair wet, a small candle flickering beside her. Her clothes were soaked, but she looked calm, almost serene, like she'd been waiting for me. "Mama," she said softly, her lips curving into a smile. "You came." I kept the gun low, hidden by my coat. "Where's Devon?" "Safe," she said. "For now. You don't have him." "I could," she replied. "If I wanted to. You know that." The way she said it, gentle, certain, made my stomach turn. She was enjoying this. The control. The game. "Why, Candace?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why did you do all this? The money, the lies, Reggie." "Reggie," she cut me off with a bitter laugh. "You mean the saint? The perfect man who treated me like a child in my own marriage? He loved you," I said. "He pitied me," she hissed. "He thought he could fix me. Just like you did." "I wasn't broken, Mama. I was just tired of being invisible." My breath caught. "What did you do to him?" She smiled faintly, the candlelight trembling in her eyes. "He found out what I'd done. The money transfers, the accounts. He was going to turn me in. So, I fixed it. I cut his brakes. He never even saw it coming. For a second, the world went quiet. The candle flickered, the rain slowed outside, and my heart simply stopped. "You killed him," I whispered. "You killed your husband." She tilted her head. "I saved myself." "No," I said. "You destroyed everything." Her expression shifted, anger, then sadness, then something that looked almost like pity. "You still don't get it, do you? You built this cage. You made me what I am. I made you loved," I said. "You just never learned how to love back." That hit her. I saw it in her eyes, that tiny flicker of hurt before the rage returned. She reached behind her, and I saw the glint of metal. A knife this time. Long, sharp, gleaming. I raised the gun, hands trembling. "Don't," I said. "Please." She took a slow step toward me. "You won't shoot me, Mama. You can't. Because no matter what I've done, I'm still your little girl." My finger tightened on the trigger. The words hurt more than the knife ever could. She smiled, taking another step. "You'll forgive me." You always do. Stop, I shouted. But she didn't. Her voice dropped to a whisper, almost tender. You can't kill your own daughter. I pulled the trigger. The sound split the world open. The candle blew out. The echo thundered through the walls, bouncing off every memory I'd ever had in that house. Candace staggered back, her eyes wide, disbelief frozen on her face. She looked down at the spreading red on her sweater, then up at me, confusion, pain, something else I couldn't name. Mama, she breathed. The knife slipped from her hand. It clattered to the floor. I dropped the gun and caught her as she fell, my knees hitting the tile. She felt so light in my arms, my little girl, my lost child, dying in the place she once learned to walk. No, I whispered, my tears mixing with the rain from her hair. No, baby. Don't. Don't go like this. Her hand twitched weakly against mine. You, finally chose, him. Her voice was fading, but the words cut like knives. You always chose someone else. Her head fell back. The light went out in her eyes. And just like that, the storm stopped. No thunder. No rain. Just silence. I don't remember how long I sat there. Minutes. Hours. Maybe forever. When the sirens came again, the same colors flashing across the same windows, I didn't move. The police burst through the door, shouting, but their voices sounded far away, like echoes from another world. I just kept holding her. Detective Monroe's voice broke through the fog. Mrs. Binham. Mara, put the gun down. It's done, I whispered. She knelt beside me, eyes softening when she saw Candace's face. Oh God. She was my baby, I said. She just forgot. The next few days passed in a blur, questions, paperwork, hospital visits. Frank survived his wound. Devon was safe, staying with social services until things were sorted. That word, sorted, made me want to scream. How do you sort out something like this? How do you fold murder and motherhood into the same box and label it resolved? They said I acted in self-defense. That I was a hero. But heroes sleep at night. I don't. I dream of that moment, the look in her eyes, the whisper of her voice, you can't kill your own daughter. But I did. And the worst part? She was right. Because even now, even after everything, I still love her. A month later, I went back to the house one last time. The insurance company wanted to finalize the documents. They called it property recovery. I called it hell. The rooms were empty now, stripped of life. Dust floated through the light like ghosts refusing to leave. In the kitchen, I found something I hadn't noticed before. A letter. Folded neatly inside one of Candace's old cookbooks. The handwriting stopped my heart. Mama, if you're reading this, it means you went looking for the truth. And you found it. I know you'll hate me for what I've done. Maybe you already do. But I want you to understand I didn't mean for it to go this far. Reggie was supposed to listen. You were supposed to listen. No one ever did. You always said love could fix anything. But maybe love is what broke me. Take care of Devon. Tell him I loved him in the only way I knew how. Candace. I sank to the floor, the paper trembling in my hands. The words blurred behind tears that wouldn't stop coming. She'd been gone long before the gun ever fired. The daughter I knew had died years ago, eaten alive by bitterness and pain I never saw clearly enough to save her from. Now, every morning, I sit by the window in the small apartment they gave me. Devon visits on weekends. He's growing fast, brave, gentle, too wise for his years. Sometimes he asks about his mother. I tell him the truth, that she made mistakes, terrible ones. But that she loved him in her own broken way. He always nods, as if he understands. Maybe he does. And sometimes, when the rain starts to fall, I think I hear her voice again, that soft, distant lullaby. The same one I used to sing to her. The same one she sang the night she died. And I whisper into the storm. I forgive you, baby. I forgive you.